And we're live.
We are live, not at the Hive.
Not at the Hive yet.
Not soon though. I think
Soon,
soon.
Yes.
hopefully.
It's gonna start to open up, but we'll still do flex. Hey everybody, I'm Dan Adelko. Welcome to Live at the Hive episode 168. Blah blah.
Matt Stefanich here, and this week we have new B. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm May.
Yeah.
Super excited to be on the live today.
Yes.
We're
Awesome.
excited to have you for your very first of many Live at the Hives.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
May, why don't you just tell everybody just a quick little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I am from Guelph, Ontario. I think I'm about 30 minutes away from the Honeypot office. I just graduated from the University of Guelph with a Bachelor of Commerce and a major in marketing. So I'm super excited to be working here at Honeypot. I've learned so much already with my, 1 month of being here. And I'm excited to continue to learn and grow and be on more live streams.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, yeah, welcome to the Hive. And we also have another new member of the Hive that started this week, Pippa. So welcome, Pippa.
It'll be good to have Pippa on soon, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, welcome, May. We're happy you're here, and we're excited today, everybody, to be talking about e-commerce strategies that you can use for your online presence in 2021. And I think the interesting thing about this is we're going to talk about, I think, a fundamental, which is the difference between a strategy and a tactic, which I find a lot of times marketers confuse the two and list down a whole bunch of tactics as opposed to necessarily strategies that are wider ranging. So we're gonna jump into that.
Some good stuff. So just leading on for this week, we have a few what's new just to kind of go over. So a digital first commerce has boosted Shopify's earnings throughout the pandemic, and throughout Q4 the revenue went up by 94%. Just more of a kind of a, I guess, put a spotlight on the fact that, the sales on Shopify have increased throughout the pandemic. E-commerce has increased throughout the pandemic. So definitely we want to keep our eye on, putting our e-commerce platforms and strategies first, but also looking towards Shopify for any new features that comes with greater revenue.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this goes without saying. Oh, that's the other one. There we go. Shopify's obviously killing it for several reasons. 90 some odd percent year over year growth for a company their size is staggering, and it's great. And they've done a lot of really great things. I would also say that Shopify isn't the only horse in the race, as it were. Yeah. You do have a lot of other options when it comes to defining a digital first strategy, and this also goes for whether you are selling physical goods, but also professional services, education, virtual products. You do have a lot of other options as well to consider. This particular one is interesting because I think the part that talks a little bit about Walmart's disappointing earnings is much more of a Wall Street expectations, because they did increase their revenue online 69%.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the smallest quarterly increase, so therefore it's a disappointment to hedge funds, et cetera. Yep. But I don't know how the two necessarily one doesn't invalidate the other. I don't think Walmart's really faltering on that. They're also astronomically larger than Shopify. As big as Shopify is, Walmart is massive. So, the percentage change is different when you're 10 to 20 times the size of something else, right?
For sure.
But I think the interesting thing here is that, especially with Shopify, like, they've got the Shop app that I think is gaining traction, where people are supporting smaller local businesses. The other interesting thing in here is that it's somewhere down there. I think 74%. Yeah, it's up there.
Yep, right here.
74% of people were purchasing products from retailers that were new to them. So this really flows well into today's live, because what we're talking about is really how you get your arms around a full e-commerce strategy. What we see a lot of are people that say, okay, I want to run some Facebook ads and make a bunch of sales, right? And you need to have a little bit more of a strategic approach. It's a long game. There's a lot of facets that go into building a community that will generate you revenue.
For sure. That's a really good segue into what's working. So why don't we go through what's working, and then maybe if we have time at the end, maybe we can just kind of talk about a little bit about Clubhouse and Facebook and Australia and what's going on there.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's a really good. That's a really good.
You should have done that one third, is what you're saying. No?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, like Dan said, so this week we're going to be talking about e-commerce strategies for 2021. May will be giving us her insights as well, and just overview of what we'll be discussing, just common strategies, investing in SEO, building relationships off your website, what that looks like, investing in paid ads, building community, and then lastly, just kind of testing everything out without taking any sides. So
yeah, for sure. So let's just go over what we're gonna cover here on that first. Let's go back up a bit.
Yep.
Can we go that? Yeah, there we go. So this is where we're going to talk a lot about the difference between strategies and tactics. So the top strategies we are going to be talking about here. Strategy number 1, invest in search engine optimization over the long term. Take it seriously. It delivers results. We have one client that just started with us out of the UK. And in the first month of content marketing and SEO, we've doubled their site traffic. And it wasn't inconsequential to begin with. So it's not like we went from, 1 visitor a day to 10. So investing in SEO. So yeah, can we just stay on that? Let's stay on the overview there.
Yep.
For a sec there. Okay. And then focusing offsite of building relationships with other vendors, with influencers. That is a strategy that is extremely important. Also very, very effective. Taking a look at paid advertising as a true investment that crosses over into all of the other things that you do. So we're going to talk a little bit about what type of ads, but the reality is it's no more free lunch. These companies are massive, gigantic companies. You don't go to a TV station and say, come on, put my ad on the air for free, or put my TV show on for free. It just doesn't work that way. So looking at paid advertising as an investment, as opposed to a cost center, right? Building community is the 4th strategy. And that, again, is something that we see often is not really considered by a lot of brands. And the best brands do it, and the most effective brands do it. And lastly, test everything without taking any sides. And we're going to dig into each one now.
Cool. Alrighty. So first up, discussing about investing in SEO.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the reasons I'm reading this all out is I was listening to the podcast version last week. Or a couple weeks ago, and I noticed one thing, that if we rely too heavily on the fact that somebody's watching on video and not seeing these slides because it's on the podcast,
fair enough.
You'll lose a little bit of content.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. Yeah.
So May, did you have anything you wanted to add in at this point? Just hop right in.
Yeah. So for SEO, I think it's extremely important for businesses to know what people are searching for online, keywords. Then they can integrate that into their strategy when building out content. Something that we do here at Honeypot all the time, like Dan said, for our new clients. I've worked on SEO through SEMrush, and it's been super helpful to get the keywords and just have everything centralized and ready to go.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things about search, especially, there's a lot of criticism for Google recently about the saturation of ads versus organic content. But the reality is that when someone is searching, you're delving into their psyche, and it's a pull process. Like, they're coming to you if they're finding content, right? So one of the first things that you want to do when you're looking at your SEO, we're not going to dwell on this for too long. Technical SEO can go very deep. But if you've got a technical issue on your site that is a top problem, if you've got a very slow site, for example, if you've got a ton of broken links, if you've got security issues and you don't have an SSL certificate installed, what you want to do is make sure that you've got everything covered from that level. You'll always have reports from these tools that will show you warnings, but I would focus just on the big critical ones that could potentially be a roadblock to any kind of search traffic coming through. So
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. These are definitely the first steps that you want to take when you're tackling your SEO strategy.
Yeah. Now, May just talked about this, and yeah, SEMrush is one of our favorite tools. Keyword and key phrase research is extremely important. So one of the things that you want to look at are not just, if you're selling t-shirts, don't try to rank for t-shirts. Try to find the terms that people are using around specifically your product, and this is called tail of search.
Yep.
So May, have you used AnswerThePublic at all in your time?
Don't think I have yet.
Okay.
I'm excited to learn though.
Yeah, the keyword research that's really, really valuable, and one of the highest trending growth areas on Google specifically are question-based searches. When people if you can rank for question-based searches, they're typically far less competitive. Then you have an opportunity to gain a lot of questions, right? Ranking for a lot of questions. Those people are highly motivated and will typically have much higher conversion rates. So this is one simple way that you can go about, it's not technical. It's just about understanding your audience, that you can go through and you'll be able to rank for this because they're typically not competitive at all, right? It depends on the market and the industry, but quite often those question-based searches, even with a small site, done properly with the right kind of content and the right structure, you can rank for these terms, and they can be very valuable.
For sure, absolutely. And like the bees mentioned within the slides here, they talk about, targeting words that maybe you don't know are worth targeting, right? Maybe looking through some ads or watching through some ads and listening to some keywords that people are discussing, or just general forums of discussion for these topics, right? And seeing what things in specific people are kind of looking for and searching for.
I actually saw a great Twitter thread on marketing Twitter where a bunch of SEOs, and I think this is a great idea, is ask your customers what the last 10 things they searched for around your product were. And you can find out what people are actually searching for versus what you assume they would be searching for, if that makes sense.
For sure.
Right?
Totally.
Absolutely.
You got to get into their brains a little
bit. Yeah,
bit.
even if it's comparison versus two items, right? Whether it's your item and maybe a competitor's, right? That's one of the first things that people search for, right? So maybe if you have a dedicated page talking about, the benefits, an FAQ or something like that, that can definitely help.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Alrighty. Next, we want to kind of talk about, a focus on the page itself. One of the ways that we like to enhance our SEO, as well as, just kind of switch it up a bit, is Yoast. So Yoast is a really great tool for website building, as well as, SEO for your e-commerce sites.
Sure. And there's lots of others. There's Rank Math and people go on and on. And for Shopify, you don't have a need for those tools because it's all baked in to a certain degree. Well, May, I know you were working on a fairly big project this week centered around some of these things. Is there anything you wanted to add here to some of the on page? So some of the things you can do to specific pages on your site to help with the rankings?
Yeah, even yesterday when we were working with one of our clients through WordPress, I learned so much about what you need to put on exactly sorry, I'm like having trouble right now. Yeah, exactly what you have to put for SEO for the different sections within your website so that you can rank and have people searching exactly what you are putting on your website.
Yeah, sure. Totally. Yeah, and everybody, just before we went live, and May, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but May was a little nervous, so just trying to calm her down a bit. It's all good. Just relax, take deep breaths, pretend like nobody's watching.
Yeah, exactly.
So some key things, and again, our strategy is investing in SEO, and these are what we feel are some of the top tactics you can do to achieve those strategies, right? This is how you map your activity. One of the most important things with SEO, and SEO is something I've been doing since way too long ago. It started with a 19. So there you go, is when I started. Before there was even a Google, there was Northern Lights, right? And Alta Vista.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Yep. Back in the day when keyword stuffing was a thing. Anyhow, the concept being here is that your on-page content. We've actually got a client that has a challenge with external link building. It's an international site. We've managed just using on-page internal linking, focusing on page quality, creating structures. It is a huge signal within Google search engine. So your titles, your descriptions for e-commerce specifically, don't just have a one paragraph product description. You can go look at Amazon has really popularized this, but long descriptions that show the product in context are incredibly powerful tools. It also increases your conversion rate. Have FAQs on the page. One of the other things that is really good for not just your copy, it's called page depth. So what Google likes to see is a variety of types of media on one specific page. So video and images and high-res images, right? This is one of the things that you can do to really bolster your products and how you can rank within search engines by adding those different
for sure
elements.
Yeah, and it's usually best practices, right? This is the type of stuff that you want to first implement when you're working on a page, whether it be a blog post or a piece of content, and then as you go along it'll just become second nature, instead of trying to build it as fast as you can and then later on you realize, oh my god, I'm gonna have to go through and fill out all these meta descriptions, all these images and everything. So
you have to.
Yeah, for sure.
It's all part of it. One other thing I wanted to mention, because we're talking about e-commerce, and I think people specifically go right to physical products. Matt, if you can pull up cxl.com.
Yep.
Okay. So this is a Conversion XL founded by a Peep Laja. So this is an awesome site. It's a certification, training, online education site. What they've done though, and so you can go to any one of these.
Yep.
And what you'll see is how they've optimized. So what Peep and his crew do is they find the best of the best in every industry, and they teach the other people teach the course. But look at this in terms of becoming great at technical SEO, and you can just kind of roll down the page here. Keep going. You can see what they've done here with their product page. Look at this. See if the course is right for you. What if it's not right for you? Then they've got testimonials, skills you should have before taking the course, right? About the author. Then a video course overview, and then it keeps going. What you get in your certification, the topics that are covered. That is a brilliant landing page. And if you search for technical SEO course, their landing pages show up in virtually every search. It's really well done SEO. And that's e-commerce, right? It's not a physical product. You're registering for a course.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just as an example there, that e-commerce applies to all sorts of different types of things.
For sure.
This one's one you can talk to.
Yeah. So once you get your technical SEO filled out and you kind of really have that really solid foundation, this is when you can really start reaching out to people, building relationships. This kind of includes seeing what kind of content people want to see on your website, right? Whether it's directory listings, reviews, social bookmarks. So whether or not you're linking to some of your recent social media posts, but even guest blogging, right? Like if you're running a blog dedicated to a product or an interest that a group of people love, odds are there's going to be another blogger out there that a lot of people go to, right? So maybe if you include that blogger's post into one of your own blogs, link to them, maybe send them a direct message, be like, hey, I really liked your blog post. I just featured your post in mine. I'd really like if you tell me what you thought about it. Odds are they'll love that someone's writing about them or someone values their content, right? So as you kind of build those relationships more and more, you're going to have this network of content creators that you can kind of go to, collaborate with, and feature. And that just kind of builds the authority on your site as you get more of those backlinks on there.
Well, collaborations are everything, and it's a way to grow similarly with others. And there are lots of ways you can do it by focusing offsite and building those relationships, whether business relationships, collaborations. I mean, directories and directory listings are great. But also building relationships using review sites and then bringing those back. These are all different strategies that are really, really critically important. So I think we've got a couple of examples here.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a few, just kind of like some of the on-site versus off page versus the technical SEO. So we can kind of see here, you know, how these kind of go together hand in hand, right? So you have the site content for the on-page SEO, off-page link building, and then technical SEO would be kind of like the site speed up. So
yeah, so I mean, these are all combinations, but you can see that you've got a lot of different things. One thing with technical SEO that I want to highlight, I think it's been a bit of a fad lately, is Google's page speed tool. I'm going to propose that 90 out of the 100 signals that are pretty much listed there are more best practices related rather than site speed related. Take it with a grain of salt. If your site can load as quickly as possible, right? Do all the right things there. But if you're looking at the first contentful paint and last contentful paint, and you've got somebody saying, well, this is a huge issue, those are not necessarily ranking factors in general. But if your site loads in 27 seconds, you got a problem, right?
Yeah.
You want but don't go at it like with a rabid. I've seen lots of SEOs go at it with just a rabid intensity, and a lot of resources and cycles it spins are wasted on things that are really what Google is saying are best practices. You should do this, but it's not necessarily even going to impact your speed. So that's just a fine point there.
For sure. And then just another note on the offsite, you know, people usually ask, you know, well, why is it important for me to get people to link to my website, or why is it important for me to link to other people's websites? And basically what this is it just builds the trustworthiness and authority of your SEO and of your articles. So if more pages link to your one page about a certain product or topic or something, that authority will also increase, right? That's off-page SEO that you want to keep strengthening. Your content.
Another strategy is to create content that Stacy's just added a comment. We'll feature that in a second here. Okay, well, we can do it now.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
So one way to build relationships is to develop a top 5 blog, ask different experts to provide one tip towards a story, and then tag and link back to their site. They'll most likely share the content with their audience and help improve your reach. Yeah, that's a good one. And you can also get them to tweet it out in particular if you've got, you know, wherever you can get that happening. One of the other things in terms of building links is if you create really good in-depth content, things like guides that go into stats and guides that go into things that are maybe a little harder to research, and then get those distributed out there. You have a better chance of organically, without having to ask somebody to link to it, they'll want to link to it. Embedding infographics, for example, is a great way of doing that. And people search out that content. Like Neil Patel, I don't think has ever made a single infographic. I shouldn't say that, but he's quite often just linking in from other people's and just putting them together in roundups, right?
Yep, so, for sure.
All right, so let's keep moving here because we're I fear that we're going to make it to like number 3 and be out of time.
Yeah, I think so. This is just to highlight. We've already talked about these guys, just the importance of them, the QAs, the guest blogs, etc.
Yep.
Paid ads. So this is definitely one that we want to highlight throughout our strategy. So I'll let May, do you have anything that you want to talk about the paid strategies?
Yeah, so especially I love social media. I'm a huge social media person. So I've learned a lot at Honeypot when it comes to boosting advertisements, doing paid advertisements, especially through Facebook. Everyone uses Facebook, and it's just a great way to, even if people are looking at your website and they don't convert right away, having those ads pop up on their Facebook page reminds them to go look at your website, reminds them that, oh, maybe I have this item in my cart that I haven't yet purchased, but that ad will remind them to do that.
For sure. I wanted to consider taking the word ads out because I think there's more nuance to Facebook specifically, and to Google, depending on how you do it. TikTok's got a great one, right? It's what is it? Don't advertise. I can't remember what it is now. Their tagline. I'm going to look it up while I continue to talk so I don't stumble over it. But the idea is that on social and in general, native advertising that is content driven is far more effective than trying to just put what would maybe be a traditional ad in front of someone on a social network. So social video, free downloads that have checklists or assessments, right? Yeah, there we go. don't make ads, make a new trend, make a connection, make TikToks. I really like that. I like that tagline because I think it's very accurate. Is that the nature of advertising has changed drastically because of these networks. So one of the things that we do, for example, and we've done this several times. In fact, our Moms at Home and Moms in Public, the dinosaur meme post got like 37 new likes last week. The thing's like 2.5 years old. It's got, I think, almost 800,000 shares. It's got something, I can't remember what it is now, but 72,000 reactions, and it continues to organically go through. Is you target an audience with a piece of content that will resonate with them specifically, and you can target them on Facebook. And then when the organic algorithm can take over is where you're going to see results, right? So creating a native style of ad is extremely important and will definitely go a long way. So, but investing in paid is critical, because if you just try to run something organically and you're a smaller brand, you're quite likely not going to gain any traction whatsoever.
Absolutely. Yeah, cool. For sure. Next is going to be kind of Google Shopping ads, right? So these placements, you know, it's going to be more of a detailed product listing. You can also take them directly to your products page. And honestly, some of these ads, I think they work. They tend to have a better ROI than PPC ads, but you are going to have a little bit more of competition on these. As you can see, for webcams at least, it's Amazon, Best Buy, Logitech, and other Amazon, right? So it's going to have a various competition.
Yeah, so shopping ads are a specific format that if you are selling physical goods, almost every e-commerce client that we've had initially has never had a Google Merchant Center set up, doesn't have it connected to their inventory feed, which is trivial to do if you're using a Shopify, for example. And these ads are very effective because you're going to catch people while they're searching. And so if you are a physical product manufacturer with an e-commerce site, get your Google Merchant Center set up. It's one of the biggest things that we see just completely not set up, and you see e-commerce brands running PPC ads when you should be actually running Google Shopping ads.
For sure, yeah. They generally sticking to the native platform when you're, so for example, say if you're wanting to put something on Google or Facebook, make sure you're utilizing all the tools that that platform has to offer before you really put in big, heavy investment in, because odds are, if you put that time in to set up that either like the shopping cart page, like we kind of see on Google, or even like a shop on Facebook, those can actually drive sales pretty well.
Yeah, Chad's making a good point here. So when you search for something he's looking to buy, and one of the top ad lines with what I'm going for, I click on it, and that's usually where my money goes. That's the idea, is that especially with the way Google mobile is presenting itself, that presents these shopping ads, you're getting people at the bottom of the funnel that are really searching for a specific product, and that's your opportunity. It also meshes into all the work that you've invested into your on-page optimization of your product page with, you know, like I said, get customer reviews. So when they receive their product, give them an incentive to create a 30-second video of an unboxing, so you can put those on your page as well.
Sure. Alrighty. Going on to this one. So this one's just kind of talking about using Amazon as well, right? So using Amazon headlines, search ads, sponsored display ads as well. Using this space and utilizing these ad placements and using them in various different ways that are unique can definitely increase some of your conversions.
Yeah. So one of the things about Amazon is if you're running, again, this is for physical products, but, you know, there's Kindle, ebooks, there's all sorts of things on Amazon, obviously. One of the things that's important to remember is distribution. It's no different than physical brick and mortar sales. So if I'm manufacturing T-shirts and Walmart comes to me and says, hey, we want to distribute your T-shirts in our 5,000 stores, I would be crazy to say no, because you know, you want to maintain your storefront, but you want distribution where, yeah, maybe your margins aren't going to be as good. But if you've got product, you should get your Amazon Seller Central account set up, get fulfillment by Amazon set up, and put your stuff on Amazon, or at least a limited number. It's a great way. It's just an incredible amount of reach and distribution you can tap into for new customers.
For sure. Okay. Cool. Moving on, I know earlier on in the live you talked about doing some keyword research and things like that. Do you want to talk about the keyword strategy?
Yeah, so for keywords, I think it's super important that you not only target what you think people are going to search, but what resonates with them. They have to be able to relate to it, not just, oh, I'm like Dan said before, I'm just searching for t-shirts. No, the questions that they're going to ask when they're searching for t-shirts, like the quality, what kind of shirts they're looking for, things that they're really going to relate to, and not just generic terms that anyone can put out there.
Yeah, and this particular strategy here is very Google related. This is the use of single keyword ad groups, which are called SKAGs. It is still a valid strategy, especially in the e-commerce world. You can really target out your high net worth search terms and be very specific without having 1,000 different keywords in one ad set. That is going to become very difficult and confusing to understand how things are working. So yeah, that's a very heavily Google centric one there.
Absolutely. And definitely when you're doing keywords as well, keyword research, you definitely want to add those keywords into your ad copy, but also make sure your ad copy rather is, informative. It catches people's eye. It's not too long, but it's not too short at the same time. There's sort of a sweet spot. And as you start kind of writing out ad copy more and more, you start to get a real hang for it. And a lot of the times it can be difficult in the first little bit, especially when you're just getting introduced to a specific industry. But practice makes perfect. And on the slide here, we have one of the common kind of template or ad groups that we create that just kind of helps us create these variations of ads.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
Go ahead.
I think it's super important to keep it short and simple so you can catch the audience's attention and not have it too lengthy. Of course, you want to explain the benefits and what you can provide to them, but keep it short and simple so they don't get bored of reading your content, and it's there for them to just read quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's a couple of other things too, is depending on the context of where you are, just don't write shitty ad copy. Oops.
Yeah, that should be a quote. There you go. That's going in the book.
I guess, this is going down. This is going down, over 100 years of this. So Ogilvy on advertising, for example. A few important things about how you write copy. Number one, never be neutral in sentiment. You be positive sentiment or negative sentiment, right? Always try to add value to your customer. Be creative and try to catch their attention. Just very bland, flat ads copy wherever you are is not going to work. The second tip is on Facebook, you can use longer posts if they're well written. I've seen 700-800 word Facebook posts from very good Facebook advertisers that add a lot of value and actually convert very well. So you have to understand your audience and who's willing to consume that. But again, it's the same thing as any type of writing. Is you've got to, the hardest thing to do are to write traditional Google ads, because your copy is so limited to be able to do that, right? So yeah, invest the time in your ads copy and be creative. Try to take a position, offer value, and really understand and use the language and the terms that are going to connect with your specific particular audience.
For sure. Absolutely. This one right here is just discussing retargeting to build relationships. So over here we can kind of see, a retargeting campaign shows people the ad who have already seen the ad, visited your site, or put items in your shopping cart. It's a really great way to kind of retarget these people. And like May said earlier on, just kind of remind your leads and your potential customers that they've had this interest in this product, and just kind of refreshing their memory. One thing that's also important as well is after once one of your customers or potential lead has completed a conversion, usually it's best to make sure that you're not retargeting to that person and trying to sell them on the same product twice. I know that you've talked about that a couple times, Dan, and it's definitely something that you want to implement in your strategy.
Yeah, you want to be a little bit more nuanced. Don't just blast. A lot of advertisers will blast remarketing very heavily, and I think it requires a little bit of nuance. It also requires different messaging rather than just the first initial message and just throwing that back in their face. A lot of people will leave things in their cart, for example, in order to try to trigger free shipping. And Amazon has really hurt a lot of smaller companies because free shipping is now, especially for, I guess, Gen Z, is assumed. They haven't lived in a world where you paid for shipping on e-commerce, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And Amazon has very quickly shaped that for smaller e-commerce and for smaller retailers. That's a very difficult pill to swallow because shipping can be really pricey. So, you know, some of the strategies there in terms of retargeting to get people to come back is to put an upper limit. And actually, there's a few apps out there that will show you how far away you are from free shipping, where it actually becomes profitable for a smaller e-commerce brand.
Yeah, for sure. Building community, we've discussed about this previously, but just building a group of people that you can communicate with, show value to, and just create more interest in discussions, right? If your customers are engaged with your company and they want to engage in conversation with you, that's awesome. That's one of the best things that could happen to you, is building a community that cares about your company and your overall interests.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a reason that influencers on YouTube can just put out a bunch of T-shirts that are of questionable quality, but they'll sell 10 minutes in an hour, right?
That's true.
You know, building community, like Amazon built community with Amazon Prime, right? That's how they did it, and it's been incredibly effective. But putting your arms around your customers, really taking their reviews and testimonials seriously, these are all great ways to build, basically to build an army that will be marketing your product for you at all times.
For sure. And you know, when people like your products and your company, they leave more positive reviews, right? So it's just it's a great way overall to improve the quality and the status of your brand.
For sure.
Yeah. And showing people that, like showing your audience that real people value your content, value your brand, value your products. It's not just, oh, I like it, but they gain real benefits from it. Shows that, builds that community of trust with your whole audience.
For
absolutely.
Sure. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, Facebook groups are a very powerful tool for building an engaged audience that you can keep going back to, and keep engaged about the benefits of your product, not about your product itself, but what problems it solves, right?
Absolutely. And that leads into the testing side, right? You want to make sure that the strategies that you're putting forward, that, you know, you test them and you make sure that they're optimized correctly. And one of the best practices that you can do is A/B testing your variants and seeing what works and what doesn't. Maybe trying to go into the demographics and a little bit of the nuances and see why it's working as well. It's important to do that because, again, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. If you're looking at paid advertising, especially as an investment rather than a cost, this is definitely something that you want to be interested in.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing is test without taking sides. A lot of e-commerce retailers and marketers base things on assumptions. And assumptions that they think the page works well. I like this color, right? I like this layout. But in reality, you know, with any platform, there's ways to set up tests. They can be simple tests. They don't have to be rocket science strategy tests. Like testing and optimization can get very complicated. But look, the big brands are doing it all the time. And what you want to be able to do is run some of these tests and just see if you can get a lift out of changing up the product descriptions, adding the video, right? Changing the button color, changing the call to action, changing the offers around it. And that goes for physical e-commerce sites, and that goes for membership sites and online education sites and professional services. Kind of doesn't matter.
Yep, for sure. This one again just kind of covers it. Make sure you're testing everything too, right? Making sure that your websites are user friendly, your landing pages work, the forms work. You want to make sure that something that either your page, your ads, or your website has the least resistance as possible when a customer or an audience member comes up to your website.
Absolutely. Like one of the things here is my suggestion would be, is your website telling a story? Because when people are reading, you want to tell them a story and lead them through that journey as if it's so you're not just putting up a generic product page or a generic story and saying, buy this thing. Imagine they walk into your physical store. People tell stories. They create an environment, and they create, like if you go to an Apple store, for example, but you can talk about tons of small retailers that have this approach. When you go to their website, it doesn't tell a story, right? So you want to be able to do that.
For sure. This one just kind of talks about how, once you put out your ad or your SEO or anything, it's not over. It's a constant upkeep. It's a constant increase in the performance of your ads, your copy, your keywords. Everything evolves, right? From the platforms that we use on a day-to-day basis to the topics that we're listening to, right? So it's important that you include those stories and those narratives into your content strategies, because if not, you're just going to be left behind, and you're not going to be keeping up with your competitors and your consumers, more importantly.
Yeah. So the one thing I like to say is, people will say, well, when is the website going to be done? And typically my answer is never. Because realistically, it's, there's an analogy that, like, when is fashion done? Right? It's not ever done. It continues. And if you have that notion in your philosophy and in your strategy that it is never done, we will always continuously do this. We will always continuously invest in this stuff. Not looking at social as something that the intern does, because that's one of the biggest mistakes you see over and over, that these big companies taking the most visible and most impactful platforms that can reach the most people are being neglected by a lot of people within a company, and it's being put on somebody that is brand new to it. And that's where these disasters happen, right?
Yep.
Like the example was, the Home Depot theme song blew up on TikTok. I'm pretty sure Home Depot had no clue that was going on, but I mean, their brand was plastered all over organic TikTok for quite a long time. Right?
Big missed opportunity for sure. And even the painting too, the paint mixing, right? That's another one where, someone had a really great idea, but these people just can't take hold of these platforms, or they're not putting enough value into them, right? For sure.
I'm sure May, as a Gen Z yourself, that TikTok is extremely powerful, even though, what we hear is, I don't like TikTok.
Oh yeah, I can get lost in TikTok for hours, and it's because you can relate to all the content, right? You want to continue, as a brand, you want to continue to improve and grow, and not just stay stagnant with your content. Relate to your audience and get them engaged.
Exactly. And don't assume that there's only, 16-year-old girls dancing and lip syncing, because there's a lot more to TikTok than that.
Oh, yeah.
I like the cooking ones. Those ones are good.
I was just going to say the recipes are my favorite.
We're making a pasta tonight from TikTok, so we'll see how that turns out.
There you go. So Pippa had a good one. I do this as well. I always go right to the reviews first on Amazon, the review section, to see what's what. And that's extremely, extremely important across the board for anyone doing anything.
Even when I'm in store, even if I'm in the store looking for a product, I'm looking at the reviews while I have the product in my hand, right? So there's a relationship there for sure.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of Live at the Hive Digital Marketing from the Trenches. How did that go, May?
It was great. Sorry if you could tell I was a little nervous, but practice makes perfect, right?
You're good. Yeah, you're good. I usually tell people, once you hit the 20-minute mark, you're kind of into it. You're kind of like, okay, like I'm kind of feeling it right now. Yeah.
Absolutely.
For sure.
All right, everyone. Well, have a great weekend if you're in the Northeast like we are. Brace for more snow. I think there's another dumping coming.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Welcome to
Unfortunately.
February. All right, everyone. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week for episode 169 of Live at the Hive, Digital Marketing from the Trenches.
See you guys
Bye,
then.
everyone.
Bye.